With hurricane season on the horizon, it's time to get serious about protecting your home. Do you have flood insurance? Hello and welcome to Volusia Magazine. I'm Amber Patterson. On today's show, we'll bring you some information that could prove helpful for obtaining flood insurance here in Florida. We'll take a look at Florida Bike Month in Volusia County, and we'll hear a friendly reminder from the county's Building and Zoning Division about the importance of hiring a licensed and insured contractor when having work done in your home. Reporter Joanne Magley brings us for a fun brewery look. Then horticulturalist Joe Sewards brings us some tips to help clear away some of the winter weeds that may have crept into your landscape. Lastly, we'll head into the studio with Community Information Director Dave Byron as he sits down for an in-depth discussion with Volusia County's Evac Ambulance Director John Zaragoza. Those segments, news, and more coming right up on Volusia Magazine. Stay tuned. Here's a reminder from Volusia County's Building and Zoning Division. When doing home improvements or an addition, homeowners should make sure the work is done by a licensed contractor. By hiring a licensed contractor, homeowners will have peace of mind knowing that the project will be done by someone with appropriate knowledge and the proper workers' compensation and liability insurance, and one who has the necessary experience. Mike Nelson, Volusia County's acting building official, said while hiring an unlicensed contractor may provide a quick fix in the short term, it could result in many serious and lasting consequences, including further damage to the property.
One example would be if you hire an unlicensed contractor, if there's an injury on the job, they won't have insurance. You're going to be liable for that injury, whether it be through your homeowner's insurance or whether the worker actually sues you. A lot of times there's problems with bills. They get materials and they charge them and they tell you they're paid for, they're not, and so you end up paying for them at a later date. They don't normally get their permits, and so if you go to sell your property at a later date and say you put an addition on, the realtor and the title company are going to be looking for the permit and make sure that it was completed, and at that point it can hold up a sale or hold up a purchase.
Nelson said homeowners should look for the following qualifications when choosing a contractor. Ask to see a state-issued license or local competency card, which looks like the examples on your screen. Ask for references. A legitimate contractor will be happy to provide you with the names and contact information of recent customers. Get a written estimate from several licensed contractors. Make sure the estimate includes the complete scope of work, the materials involved, the completion date, the payment schedule, and total cost. Beware of contractors who claim to be the fastest or the cheapest. Hiring them could result in poor workmanship, inferior materials, or unfinished jobs. Nelson said unlicensed contractors often target the uninformed and inexperienced, as well as the elderly. They solicit door-to-door, frequently traveling in unmarked trucks and vans. They give a post office box address instead of a street address, and they convince the homeowner to obtain the necessary building permits. To find out if an individual is properly licensed, you can call the Volusia County Contractor Licensing at 386-736-5957 and choose option 2. Floods cause more deaths and property damage than any other type of disaster. With hurricane season only 3 months away, now is a good time to think about purchasing residential flood insurance. All it takes is a few inches of water to cause major damage to a home and its contents. Pat White is the Volusia Prepares Coordinator with Volusia County's Emergency Management Division.
Many people believe that they're covered for flood by their homeowner's insurance. That's not true. Homeowners only protects them against wind and other perils besides flood. You need to have flood insurance to be covered for any kind of rising water event that might happen.
Flood insurance is available through the National Flood Insurance Program for homes, condos, apartments, and commercial structures. In Florida, floods are caused by tropical storms, hurricanes, excessive rainfall, and water backup due to overloaded drainage systems. Homeowners can determine their flood risk by going to floodsmart.gov. Even homes that are not in a floodplain can be at risk for flash floods or damage due to heavy rains. In fact, about 25% of flood loss claims comes from low-risk areas. Homeowners shouldn't wait for a hurricane to purchase flood insurance. It takes 30 days after purchase for a flood insurance policy to take effect. Also, if a hurricane is within 500 miles of Florida, flood insurance policies will not be written. So the time to get flood coverage is now, before a hurricane strikes. For more information about the National Flood Insurance Program, you can go to floodsmart.gov. March is Florida Bicycle Month, and the weather is perfect to get out into the fresh air on your bicycle. Bicycling plays an important role in providing transportation to work, school, for fitness and recreational activities to millions of Florida residents and visitors annually. Courtney Reynolds, Rethink Program Manager, says when on the road, bicycle riders should always keep in mind safety first.
In the state of Florida, a bicycle is actually legally a vehicle, and that means following the traffic laws and knowing the traffic laws, obeying traffic signals, like when that red light is red, stopping. And even if you choose to ride your bike on the sidewalk, it also means obeying the signals as well. It is legally required to have lights on your bike. That means a front white light, a rear red light, and a rear reflector. And also having brakes that work is a very important part. Commuters who are interested in riding their bike to work can check out rethinkyourcommute.com, where we provide some resources of how to get started and also provide information about our emergency ride home program.
For the recreational bicyclists, Volusia County offers plenty of opportunities, including a trail system that covers 23 miles in natural and urban areas. The Spring to Spring Trail meanders through West Volusia and offers splendid views of natural Florida. To date, the county has completed several segments of the Spring to Spring Trail, totaling more than 15 miles. Construction is underway on a 2.4-mile Spring to Spring Trail that begins at French Avenue in Blue Spring State Park and extends south to Detroit Terrace in Orange City. It's expected to be completed later this year. When complete, the Spring to Spring Trail will stretch 26 miles from Gemini Springs Park to De Leon Springs State Park and will connect with the rail trail. Earlier this year, pedestrian trail overpasses were completed in Enterprise and in Osteen. For more information about Volusia County Trails, you can visit volusia.org/trails. Florida's craft beer business is booming. In 2012, the industry reported an economic impact of more than $875 million, which ranks 12th in the country. Reporter Joanne Magley has more in this week's Business Beat.
Volusia County is home to a handful of craft breweries, including Persimmon Hollow Brewing Company in DeLand. Robbie Corelli and Andy Sistrunk are co-owners, both former white-collar professionals who literally quit their day jobs to pursue their dream jobs.
Drinking local is a huge thing for us and for the other Florida breweries. Most of the big breweries out there that are making domestic light lagers, the biggest one in the world is no longer American-owned. Even though it's made here in America, it's now owned by an international corporation, huge corporation. The polar opposite of that is the drink local movement. Folks are liking to eat local, shop local, buy local, and now drink local.
Craft breweries help boost the local economy by using local ingredients. They also increase the foot traffic to existing businesses.
Every Friday, Saturday, Thursday night, almost every night we're open. Some of the restaurants in the area get folks that will go and carry food out and bring it in here.
We keep a rotation. We have locally made potato chips that come from Ocala, so they're just made across the state. Met the guy through our farmers market. He comes to our farmers market every Friday night that happens right in front of our building.
As with many craft breweries, Persimmon Hollow grew from the owner's home brewing passion for a better, more flavorful beer.
You get regional flavors when you drink local. When we travel different places, we like to drink the local beer. For years, the American definition of beer didn't have a lot of flavor. We are about flavor. Making beers is as much about cooking as it is about drinking.
Robbie and Andy started their business plan 2 years before opening in October of 2014. And for about 8 months, They toured breweries around the state.
One of the really great things about the industry in Florida is everyone is very, very helpful and really wants to see you succeed and see you open and see craft beer become more widespread in Florida. We asked people what they did wrong and what they would have done differently if they had the opportunity, and we got really honest, good feedback.
They also got a lot of community support leading up to the business opening day, and that support continues today.
The tap room is packed. Folks are coming back very regularly.
We do very much foresee running out of space. The wholesaling manufacturing side will definitely need to expand. Storage space has already become a big deal for us and will continue to be a big deal. At the end of the day, we get to make beer for a living. That's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and folks come in here, they drink the beer, they enjoy the beer. We get to see their smiles. They see smiles on our faces. It's great.
For the Business Beat,
It's a beer.
I'm Joanne Magley.
In just a week, spring will be here, and with spring comes spring cleaning, yard work, and, oh yes, weeds. Joe Sewards, our horticultural specialist, has a few tips to help weed out the unwanted weeds left over from the winter.
Welcome to Horticulture Today. I'm Joe Sewards. Well, it's spring, or nearly so. The weather's getting warmer. People are getting anxious to get out into their lawns and do some work. I want to give you a few more tips about some of the do's and don'ts of spring lawn care. First of all, lawns are supposed to be dormant in the wintertime. Don't worry, they should be turning green. You want to wait 2 weeks after they've turned green before you fertilize. Roots will have grown then. They're in a better position to absorb applied nutrients, and that's why we wait to fertilize till later on in the spring. Another important part of lawn care is weed control. The University of Florida does not recommend the application of weed and feed fertilizers. Very few, if any, lawns require weed killer applied over the entire property. It's better to fertilize the lawn, mow it, keep it well watered, and spot treat weeds only. Here we have a product, one of many, that is designed specifically for lawn weed control. These are known as selective herbicides. They are designed to kill broadleaf weeds, things like dollarweed, Florida betony, and other dicotyledonous plants, without harming the grass when applied according to labeled directions. That's a very important aspect of lawn weed control, is make sure you follow labeled directions. Read the label completely before you apply the product. Too many times people have come to the office and they say, I've applied this product or that product to my lawn, and now my lawn is dead, what can I do? And short of replacing the lawn, there really isn't anything you can do. So before you apply the product, make sure you read the label directions. If you have questions about that, call us at the Extension office and we can help you with that as well. Another thing is people will want to clean up their beds. And in landscape beds, you can often use a product such as this, which contains the active ingredient glyphosate. This is one of many brand names of products that contain the active ingredient glyphosate. Glyphosate is known as a non-selective herbicide. If you spray it to weeds, the plants will absorb it through the leaves only. It will metabolize the product, and it will kill the weeds, roots and all, without harming surrounding plants. Products such as this, which contain glyphosate again, will not harm surrounding plants as long as you don't spray the foliage. This is only absorbed by the leaves, so it is safe to use as long as you use it carefully, you don't spray anything you don't want to kill, and you follow the label directions. Turn the product around, look for the label, open it up, and read the directions completely before applying the product. That's important for your safety as well as the safety of your landscape plants. Again, when these products are applied according to labeled directions, they're perfectly safe and they won't kill anything that you don't want to kill in the way of plants. So remember, spring is a good time to get out there, rejuvenate your landscape, fertilize, practice some weed control while it's still cool. That will minimize damage to your turf and to other plants, but it is important to make sure you read the label. If you have questions about any products that you want to apply to your landscape, you can always call us at the Extension office. University of Florida, IFAS Extension in Volusia County. We also have a website. You can go to volusia.org/extension. We'll be happy to answer your questions. For Horticulture Today, I'm Joe Sewards.
Let's head on into the studio to join our very own Community Information Director, Dave Byron, as he sits down with the county's Evac Ambulance Director, John Zaragoza.
Well, thanks, Amber, and hi, everyone. You know, it's a business where saving a few minutes can be the difference between life and death. Evac ambulance personnel are on the roads of Volusia County 24/7, 365, responding to fires, car crashes, crime scenes, and medical emergencies. Since October 2011, Evac has been a service of Volusia County government, and this is the busiest time of the year for our Evac personnel. So we thought we'd catch up on how things are going with the county ambulance service, and we're very pleased to have with us in the studio John Zaragoza. He's the director of Evac Ambulance. John, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm fine. Thank you very much for being with us. Let's talk a little bit about Evac in general. Give us kind of a thumbnail description of the Evac ambulance operation.
Sure. Well, we're the county ambulance service. We're a division under public protection here for Volusia County. We're charged with the responsibility of providing emergency care and transportation within, the county itself. We run right now about, we're touching about 85,000 calls per year right now. That's a rolling 12-month analysis that we do. And we're transporting about 70% of the time.
Wow.
Yeah.
So 70% of the 911 calls that you get for medical emergencies, you end up making a transport to a medical facility.
That's correct.
Unbelievable. Hey, obviously Volusia County, fairly large county, 500,000 people, but when you have this time of the year, Daytona 500, spring break, bike week, the population swells considerably more. Obviously, that keeps you folks really, really humming during this time of the year.
Oh, absolutely. We actually have to put additional ambulances on during this period of time.
John, you know, it's been described in Volusia County that we have what's called a two-tiered emergency response transport system. Explain what that means when I say two tiers.
We enjoy an awesome relationship with the fire services who actually provide emergency first response, paramedic response within their specific geographic areas. So actually, depending on the type of call, they may respond with us kind of in advance as a first responder to us, so they can go get there before the ambulance actually gets there, provide some first response care and stabilization of the patient before our ambulance crew gets there, and then of course work as a team to make sure that make sure that the patient is stabilized and ready for transportation if that's necessary.
So in a good many cases, I guess what I'm hearing you say, you know, the 911 calls comes in, it's dispatched. Oftentimes a local fire unit, city fire unit will respond, or county fire will respond. You guys will get toned out as well. If they get there first, I guess what you're saying is they triage the patient, then you get there, take over, and if there's a transport, I guess you do the transport.
That's correct.
And that system, I guess, is regarded as one of the better ways to handle these emergencies.
It's a very efficient system because it allows more assets to be brought to bear, especially for the critical cases. I mean, when we have more complex cases, the cardiac arrests, we certainly need all hands on deck, and that's when really the collaboration works very well.
Now, I know Volusia County has what's called a medical director, and I believe that person is responsible for making sure that the training and the medical protocols are pretty standard among the responders, so everyone knows what they're supposed to do and they're using the same, I guess, response treatments.
I think that's one of the things that a lot of folks don't realize is that paramedics and EMTs don't do what they do kind of off the cuff. I mean, there are policies and protocols that are set in place, and there's oversight by a medical director, an actual physician who's been trained in emergency medicine, who works to make sure that the whole system is well coordinated, well educated, and really ready at a moment's notice to take care of the patient.
John, I think it's interesting to note that Volusia County, your Evac ambulance system has a very, very sophisticated modeling process using computerized data, and you're in effect always moving those ambulances around based on the likelihood from data of where the call might come in. Tell us about that system, because it's pretty interesting.
Right. Well, a traditional EMS system would be one that we would have fixed stations in the community, and we would actually sit an ambulance there and have the crew sit at that station and basically cover geography. The model that we've used, which is a much more higher, more sophisticated and more, I want to say a finite system, would be, we use what's called a high performance modeling, which basically we take 5 years of historical information on the types of calls, where they were, what time of day they occurred, and we take all of that information and we actually analyze it, and we come up with probabilities. And basically we say that the probability of the next incoming call on this particular hour will be in this particular area. And that's why you actually see our ambulances sitting actually on street corners, where we've actually predicted that that's probably the best place for them to be able to take that emergency call and be there within a specific period of time.
I'm glad you pointed that out, John, because you know, you might see an Evac ambulance, you know, backed into a 7-Eleven or that sort of thing, and you know, chances are that ambulance is there intentionally because that's what your data tells you, that that's where that unit needs to be based on where the next likely call is going to come in.
Oh, absolutely. They're not just sitting there because they're hiding. They're actually sitting there because that's the point where we say that the next incoming call is probably going to occur. And we continue to look at that data, and we continue to improve the process and move those points, if you will, based on that information.
So I'm thinking that one of the advantages of doing that is a quicker response time. Is that a logical conclusion?
Oh, sure. I mean, response time is always the metric that the community expects.
Right. And speaking of response times, in general, what do you shoot for in terms of an acceptable response time?
We attempt to do a 10-minute response time. It really depends, rural versus urban, but generally speaking, we do try and shoot for a 10-minute response.
And is that pretty much what, or is that an industry standard, or does that vary community by community?
It really varies community by community. I mean, if you talk to some of the larger cities, it might be a 4-minute response time based on the number of assets that they have. If you're talking more in the Midwest and the West, where there's, you know, in Wyoming or whatever, their response times may be an hour or longer. So it really is, there's really no industry standard out there.
Right. You know, one of the other things that that was said when the county integrated emergency dispatch. Now, all of the dispatching that comes in from all those 911 calls now comes into the Sheriff's Comm Center over there on Indian Lake Road. And one of the things that was said when the county integrated that system is the county would be able to manage all of this data, collect it, you know, amalgamate it in a standard format and that sort of thing, and that would lead to a more efficiencies in the system. Is that worked out?
I think time and time again, in my experience, you know, looking at different, working under different systems, I think the Consolidated Communication Center definitely has paid off time and time again. You always see where that information and that cooperation and coordination of the assets really benefits the community.
Talk about how you're funded, John.
Okay, well, since we are a department of the county or a division of public protection, of course, you know, we are funded through the traditional governmental budgeting process. Right now, we run a budget of about $16 million. The advantage that we have is that we actually can be reimbursed through medical insurance because we provide the service as the care and transportation part of that. So we work very hard to ensure that we actually receive adequate reimbursement so that we actually narrow down what's called ultimately the taxpayer subsidy. It's the difference between what we actually can bring in reimbursement versus what it actually costs us to provide the service.
And that's running about 50%, is it not?
Well, our actual reimbursement is running about 50%.
Right. Yeah. John, what sort of person does it take to be a good EMT? Because that kind of work is not for everyone. What kind of person does it take?
I always say that EMS is kind of the heart of public protection
Right.
or public safety. It takes a lot of compassion. There's a lot of adrenaline that is presumed in it, but ultimately the individual has to have compassion. You're walking into some situations and seeing people at their absolute worst and really in dire straits in many instances. So you've got to have the heart. You've got to be hardened too, but still keep that sympathy.
Yeah, I was going to say, John, I mean, certainly you folks run into some very, very difficult situations, and I'm thinking to be able to manage your own personal passion and emotions or whatever you would take a certain kind of person, I would think.
Oh, absolutely, and we work very hard to try and support our folks too, because they see things and do things that they have to take home with them sometimes, and we work very hard to work with them to really mentor them and to make sure that they're whole.
Right. What kind of medical training does it take to even qualify to be an Evac EMT?
We actually operate with 2 levels of certification, an EMT and a paramedic. That's usually the configuration that we have on our ambulances.
Paramedic would be the lower of the two?
Actually, paramedic would be the higher.
Okay, great.
Yeah, EMT is kind of the basic. Think of that one as kind of the associate's degree, if you will, in emergencies medicine. They do basically non-invasive skills. Sustaining, splinting, sustaining CPR, those kind of things. The paramedic is the higher of the two, which takes probably an additional year or so of college training in order to be able to do what they do. They're the ones that actually provide, they do EKG interpretation. They'll administer medications, administer shocks to restart hearts. So, and it's a good working relationship between the two, using a basic life support provider, the EMT, along with the advanced life support paramedic.
And you can get to Evac Ambulance, I think, through the county's website. No?
That is correct.
Well, John, again, I want to thank you for sharing the information with us. A very important service that you are providing to the community here in Volusia County, and obviously a very busy time of the year. So let's be safe, huh?
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Our guest today, John Zaragoza. He's the director of the county's Evac Ambulance Service. And with that, Amber, we'll go back to you.
Thanks, Dave, and thank you for watching Volusia Magazine. If you have any questions about the show, you can feel free to give us a call at any of the numbers you see listed here, or you can log on to volusia.org and click on the News tab at the top of the screen to find us. Incidentally, you can find the County Council's meeting calendar there too. In fact, you can use volusia.org to find out about meeting dates, workshops, topics of interest, activities, and how you can become involved. And we hope you won't forget to listen to Volusia Today. That's Volusia County Government's weekly public radio broadcast. Volusia Today airs every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Sunday mornings on the local radio stations you see on your screen. For Volusia Magazine, I'm Amber Patterson. Have a wonderful evening.